Welcome in everybody to the Q Code podcast. It's Danny, Travis, and Alan back from hiatus, but in quarantine. So we thank you
we
all
are in three
for...
different spots. As you can see, Trav down here. I don't know how it works on the thing, so maybe I'm pointing to nothing, but on my screen, he's below me. And he is...
On this screen, on the recording screen, you're on the bottom now, Dan.
Oh. He's
This is
above me,
also-
probably?
I don't think it really matters because we're also releasing this as a podcast, so the people that are just listening to the audio have no clue what we're talking about.
That's what I'm saying. I think we should explain to the audio only that.
So yes, we are in quarantine. You can probably tell by the sound quality that it's not as crisp and awesome as it usually is. But that is because we are all three in the comfort of our own homes and recording from there so that we are doing our part not to spread the virus. But yeah, so we just felt like, I know it's been a little bit, a lot of stuff has happened since Christmas, really, and we had every intention of of continuing on, but one thing just happened after another, and then the world started to end, and we were like, what do we do? So
I think what we realized in the end is that because we were not producing new podcast episodes, that's when the world went to hell. So it's on us to produce.
Get things back on track by doing the Q Code episodes again.
We're going to produce more content.
And hopefully that will scare the virus away. So we just felt that we needed to at least take this opportunity just to get together. We're obviously in weird times right now. We thought that it would be good for us to chat about it. And for any of our listeners who wanted, or who haven't forgotten about us these past 3 months, to listen and to hopefully, I don't know, it's not like we're the news. It's not like you're going to be hearing anything different from us than you are on, any news site, on social media, Facebook, TikTok, whatever you follow. You're not going to be hearing anything new from us. It's just maybe you can listen to what we have to say and possibly relate, because we're all in the same boat here. So I think we just wanted to get together, talk about it a little bit, get our opinions out there. And then if, worst comes to worst, we just have an episode about the coronavirus years down the line that we can show to or have our grandkids listen to. So
yeah, I think that was part of it. One, this was just opportune moment is probably the wrong word to use here. But this was obviously
we're in the thick of it now.
Like, this is the biggest news that we've had as far as affecting our everyday lives, probably ever in our lifetimes. And on top of that, so creating a podcast episode out of it, but also as kind of a document or something that we could revisit in the future, or anybody else who visits in the far future can be like, oh yeah, that's what was going on in the middle of this whole crisis or whatever. So
somebody's
we
gonna
can either know like, oh, things turned out okay after this, or we can realize that things are really good right now and we wish we could come back to this moment because there's like 4 of us left when we're rewatching this 10 years from now. Ironically, 3 of us are sitting on this podcast.
I have anything on my face right now, so I'm going to have to touch my face. And if I get coronavirus after that, we'll know.
Yes.
Well, that would
we might not know for 2 to 14 days. So
I'll start the clock right now.
But I could just imagine somebody like 50 or let's say 150 years down the road just unearthing this audio of us talking about it and figuring out this is how it was in Davis County, Utah. Except for, I'm pretty sure, Alan, you're not in Davis County anymore, right?
No, I'm in Draper right now.
What county is Draper considered?
I think Salt Lake.
Salt Lake still?
Lake County, right?
And so,
So
okay,
it's not quite,
well then,
not quite Utah County.
I think you have to go around
No.
the mountain to get into Utah County, right? I don't
I
know.
think you're right.
okay, so this might kind of give us a good segue into some of the stuff. Now, Danny has sent us some questions that we're going to just kind of discuss and just get our points of view on things. But with some of the recent news that happened here, Salt Lake County is basically, so the governor came out and the governor talked about, hey, let's all just keep doing what we're doing and not change a dang thing, although I'm going to hold a press conference about it. And remember how we talked about all staying indoors and staying 6 feet from each other and all that social distancing stuff? Well, now we're just going to make it official. Like,
Basically.
4 weeks into this thing, let's make it official. And so he did that, but go for it.
From a parent standpoint, they were quick to move on the schools here in Utah. Like, as soon as they kind of noticed that a couple of other states were pulling children from schools so they couldn't congregate, Utah jumped right on that, and I was pretty proud that they moved so quickly and got that done.
Thank you
But
for sending our children home.
Yeah, but since then,
I think one of the main reasons Utah moved so quickly on some things like shutting down the schools and being like coming out with the recommendation of, at first it was no groups, don't get in groups, gather in groups of more than 100 or whatever. But we were like, I think one of the first states to do that was because of the whole like Rudy Gobert thing being on the Utah Jazz. And that really, I think, expedited some of these decisions in Utah.
Thanks, Rudy.
And then Donovan.
Rudy, you ruined sports for the rest of us. I mean, actually, it's probably a good thing that it happened the way that it did, because everything kind of quickly shut down right after that. So
in a way, I think you could say that Rudy Gobert may have saved a lot of lives, because he did create a quick reaction for quite a few people and companies and industries that may not have moved so quickly without the fact that he came down with coronavirus, which I don't think they ever confirmed where he got it from. I don't think they probably just don't know, but I don't think they confirmed it, right?
Not that I know of.
And it's kind of like, you can't really, I mean, I know a lot of people have been like on social media blaming Rudy Gobert for the shutdown of all of these, or of the NBA especially, and ruining the season. Because he did that
shut down anyway.
Conference, he did that microphone thing where he like jokingly, he was like, I'm not worried about coronavirus, and then he tapped all the microphones.
That's so Rudy.
That was right before he got his diagnosis.
Like, it's just like a normal thing for Rudy to do. He does that every press conference.
But you can't really blame.
Such a foreign thing to do.
You don't know who got it first. You don't know. Like Mitchell, I know, was mad at Gobert for the first while, but that's unfair, because who knows if Mitchell had it first and gave it to Gobert.
Yeah, because nobody knows. Like I said, when you just talked about touching your face, it could manifest itself within 2 to 14 days, just depending on the person. So, yeah, he could have had it first and gave it to Gobert. So, but it was just Gobert that showed signs of it first. So,
well, and there were stories I think that came out as far as, so I mean, I guess we're jumping into the sports scene portion of this first. But there were stories that I think there's a player, Christian Wood, is that his name? Wood, on Detroit, who,
like the Pistons?
I don't know if he had it or something like that. So, I mean, if you really want to know, I guess check Detroit sports news and see if their player, one of their young up-and-comers, who I think really isn't that young, even though he's like new to the league, but he's like already pretty old for that standard. But yeah, I heard that he might have it, and then they're wondering if he gave it to Rudy, because the Jazz played the Pistons not too long ago.
Oh, okay. I was like, how? These hang out, but yeah. So I mean,
So,
A
and
lot of
really quick,
things.
before you go, Trav, just especially if you're listening to the audio version, I think you can tell if you're listening to the video or watching the video version of this, but I think Trav's connection is a little bit touchy today. So if you hear him on the audio cut out, like in and out, that's why. It's
Danny,
not your
I
speakers.
think you're thinking that it's just me. Like you're doing the same thing, or unless it's just what I'm seeing on my side. I don't know.
Have you seen me cut out at all, Al?
Not really.
Maybe it's because I'm down in my basement.
No, I'm sure that's why.
Like I said, I'd be upstairs, but my kids, honestly, they're in bed, but they're not asleep yet. And before we press record, I could hear my son getting yelled at. So he needed to go to sleep. But
go ahead.
So I was just gonna say, so obviously a lot of things have changed, our way of life. But with Allen being where he is, so I guess the mayor of Salt Lake County decided to do a little bit more than what the governor of Utah wanted to do, and they issued pretty much basically shutting down everything. Everybody stay in your homes unless it's an emergency, but all non-essential businesses are shut down. And that's just kind of what they decided to do. Summit County, where Park City is, has already done that. So it could just trickle and maybe other counties decide to follow suit. But I mean, I'm curious with you guys, because the governor obviously has his idea. I mean, the fact that he hasn't shut everything down is really based on the fact that we shut everything down, then the economy kind of goes, right? So, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts? Would you rather just kind of shut down completely except for non-essential businesses and tough it out for a few weeks and just stay home? Or do you think that we're doing the right thing by continuing keeping things open, just practicing our social distancing?
Well, for me, the answer to that all comes down to deaths. How many deaths do you want? Because this whole quarantine thing, it's eventually I think like most people are going to get this. That's just my opinion. It's going to just like most people will get it eventually. The quarantining is slowing down how many people get it at once so that our healthcare system can treat them for it, So we have enough ventilators to keep people alive.
Yeah, I mean,
if we're not, everybody's going to get it all at once, and then that's where you get massive amounts of deaths, is because we don't have the equipment to keep people alive. We would have to do what Italy does, which is triage people and say this person is better off, they have a chance of living, this person's in pretty bad shape, so we're just going to have to let them die because we don't have the equipment to keep both of them alive. So I think quarantining is good just to keep people alive. I don't know if that's going to reduce the numbers of how many people actually get the virus, but it'll just slow down the spread of the virus.
Well, there's different levels at which you can do it. So, I mean, right now, if you're just doing what we're doing now, it is more a tool of just slowing down the spread of the virus than it is a tool to actually prevent people from eventually getting it for the most part. It is doing what you're talking about, Alan, which is flattening the curve. But in the end, like you'd really have to go to drastic measures, kind of like what they've done in China and in South Korea, where they've literally locked down things and put it so you could not leave your house. And they would literally have people just going up and down, like dropping bags of food off at your doorstep so that you could eat, because they don't want you leaving. So they were bringing supplies and stuff to everyone's house. And like, I think unless they've got to that point, then we're going to continue to get, I wish I would have gotten you an image of this, but there's some pretty cool images out there if you want to Google it or whatever, but it shows you like, okay, if you do nothing, here's like the big spike that's going to happen. And if you do quarantining like we're doing, you're going to have like a more rounded, longer curve And then if you take more drastic measures, that's when you get like really drastic change of the curve and the number of cases out there. But to your comment, Alan, I think it comes to the herd immunity thing where you have to get about 70% of the population that needs to contract the virus before you have what's called herd immunity, and basically is what will stop the virus from continuing to spread unless it mutates.
Wait, how many percent of the population?
70% is typically what they say you need for herd immunity. So unless we get to that point, then it's either got to be 70% of the population gets it, or it's got to be they come up with a vaccine. Mm-hmm. And once they have a vaccine, and if it's effective, then it can have a similar effect. And so, I mean, when you do a vaccine for like chickenpox now, or I don't know if they still do smallpox vaccine, do they? But measles, mumps, those kind of things. I think they need to have about 95% of the population get the vaccine to prevent any sort of outbreak from gaining any traction. Because if you only have that 5% that don't, then that's like a small enough percentage of the population to prevent any outbreaks or major outbreaks.
I wonder what those no vaccinating your children F-tards are thinking now. Oh, maybe we should vaccinate our kids as long as we don't get corona.
That would be interesting.
To
see like the parents, see the parents who don't vaccinate their kids now, if they would vaccinate them for corona if they came out with a corona vaccine.
Seriously? Yeah, definitely they would. They'd be like, nah, it's just going to stop them from getting corona. It's not going to give them the autism. So those people are stupid. I know we've talked about it before. We could have an episode about vaccinating your children and how stupid it is if you don't. Because this is the problem that we're going to run into. If they do come up with a vaccine, like you said, if you've got people that are just kind of still sticking to their beliefs that they don't need to be vaccinated, then what type of a percentage is that of the world that are going to refuse it? Hopefully not that many, but like if they're the ones that are going to prohibit everybody else from, becoming immune or getting well or, whatever, not contracting it, then I say burn them all. Let's just kill them, Hitler style.
I think the vaccine conversation is pretty interesting, and I actually wouldn't mind taking a small tangent on that in a second, but maybe to not get too far off course of what you were talking about, the economy. I mean, I think that's basically what it's coming down to with a bunch of these leaders, is they're deciding between, is the economy more important or is human lives more important in essence? And so, I mean, one of the questions that I presented to you guys earlier, and we can talk about now, is what can you put a value on human life? And if so, how would you do that? How would you go about deciding what would you do if you were the president of the United States or something like that? If you were in a power position, how would you decide how much is human life worth versus how much the economy as a whole and everybody else's well-being and, their ability to thrive worth?
Well, I kind of feel like that question is almost a trick question. I feel like if you stopped the quarantine of people and everybody just came outside for the economy and went back to work, the virus would start spreading so fast, everyone would be getting sick and they'd be staying home anyways. So the economy wouldn't get better. Everybody's going to be at home sick, or at least seeing the numbers of people that are now sick and be like, no way in hell am I going outside because I'll get it. So to sit there and be like, oh, we got to save the economy and it might be worth this many lives. Everybody starts getting it, then nobody's going to be going to work anyways. So it's kind of like we're in a situation where, it's going to suck for the economy, but either way, the economy is going to take a tumble, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, it already has, so.
Well, it's going to, Yeah, there's no saving the economy like in the short term just by letting people like say everybody go back to work because they're all going to get sick. And it's going
How
to
about you, Trav? Do you have any differing views from that?
Well, I was going to say this. So I think I have an idea of why this is all happening. And it has to do with the economy. And if what I think is true, I mean, it bodes well for our generation. So, you know, the virus comes out and immediately everybody's saying, okay, everybody stay in your homes. Well, it came out recently that one of the largest condom factories has shut down. So they're forcing everybody to go in their homes, taking away their prophylactics. Things are going to happen. So what we're going to see next is we're getting rid of the old folks. You know, it's kind of morbid, but a lot of people have called it the boomer remover. And then so you got all these people that are now quarantined in their house with no prophylactics. We're gonna have ourselves another baby boom, which is the exact same thing that we need.
World War II?
No, not for World War II, but to save our Social Security situation. The government has messed up Uber has borrowed from Social Security so much that it's pretty much in debt. It's not even there. Yeah, we still pay into it. So which means that by the time that we retire, we're not going to have Social Security unless we have another baby boom, which might be coming. So that was maybe, in my opinion, maybe that was their idea. Let's first introduce a new virus into the population. We'll do it in China because we'll blame them.
So this is all a ploy, is what you're saying, Trav.
This is all a ploy. This is Donald Trump just trying to fix the government's just their bad mistakes of using all of our Social Security and trying to get it back. So reduce the population first of all the people taking Social Security. Then we'll bump it up by introducing new people to the population that can pay into it.
So that's a pretty good. I've never heard that conspiracy theory, but it's got some merit. I think it's got some good points to it.
But in all seriousness, I mean, to answer my own question, I guess. I mean, I'd almost just kind of what you guys thought or said. I mean, I don't want it. Nobody wants it. I don't want to risk it. I'd rather just be at home and try and weather out the storm. And hopefully, you know, if everybody's just kind of stuck inside, that it's gonna slow it down enough to where it can figure something out. Economies, I mean, it sucks, but I mean, look at history. Okay, I mean, the economy goes down, it almost disappears, but it fluctuates, right? It'll come back up. It has to. So I don't know what's worse. I mean, all of us are kind of in that age range where if we get it, we should be probably okay. But there's reports coming out more and more of younger people now. They've probably got respiratory issues or other types of illnesses. But I think there was a report today that I saw that some 25-year-old girl here from Utah passed. She was the 4th death in Utah.
Are we up to 4?
What? Yeah, I think they're up to 4 now. And I don't know because I didn't read the article, so I don't know if she had any underlying issues.
And that's the thing. I think
that's 10 years younger than me. So yeah. Would I be okay risking it and getting it just to save the economy? Probably not. I don't know what I'd rather live through.
Well, I mean, I think ultimately you don't want to die, and you don't want your family members or your friends to die, because if you die or what, you know, let's just keep it as simple as you dying. If you die, then it doesn't really matter for you what the economy is like, right?
No.
So, I mean, I think life is important to a certain extent. I mean, and we could dig into this like super deep, but we won't go that deep. But what's that?
This year, to a certain extent. No, I think my life's pretty important.
Hey,
Not to a
life
certain
is
extent.
important.
I would rather just 100% be alive.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that. But like, if it came back to this, like, hypothetically, let's say that I had to make the decision, like I was all knowing, right? I am getting visited by God.
This is his fantasy. I'm all knowing.
But let's say, for example, I'm all knowing and because I got a visit from God or whatever, and he came down and he said, I'm going to let you know that you have two options. You can kind of go through this, but if we don't kind of go right now and take care of this whole disease, then your whole family is going to die and whatever. So it wouldn't matter to me like what the cost of the economy was. Like I would not want that to happen. But if it was like, or option B, you get it and only you die, but it'll be in such a scenario that the rest of your family, like the economy will rebound within a year or two, and then they'll be okay financially and all that. But if not, if you don't die, then they're going to be in desperate homeless ruin for the rest of their lives, So like, at what point would you make a decision like, well, I'd rather not have my family be homeless and not have anything because the economy shatters to the point where inflation goes up 10 million% in a day, and then people are just burning their money for warmth, because it's worth more to them that way, like already happens in some countries.
True.
Well,
I don't know.
That was probably an unnecessary tangent.
That's the good part. For me, I don't have any kids. I don't have a wife. So I can be pretty selfish in this.
You can. And that's not a bad thing, because you have one person basically you got to look out for.
Mm-hmm.
Number one.
But feel free. I mean, Alan, you can look out for like your brother that's older than you by about 4 years if you want. Like you can worry about his life and his well-being. But yeah, I mean, I think to wrap up the whole conversation, it's a very, very difficult decision that somebody in a power position, such as the governor of Utah or the president of the United States, whether, I mean, you agree with them from a political standpoint, but if you hone solely in on this whole decision that they would have to make in this crisis, in this situation, there is a weird balancing act, and it's not unprecedented to people have to make choices between the value of human lives and the economy. It's actually something that happens like all the time in the background, but we don't know it. It's not like up front. Like it's not like people are literally saying, it's just like, we know X amount of people are going to die, and because of that, but we can have this. And so in the end, it's like they are putting a value to life. For example, like certain prescription drugs, right? Like they sell it for X amount of money, and if someone can't afford it and they could die, but in a way they're putting a value to a life then, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and at that point it just becomes the prices get so astronomical because they know people will need it and they need to pay for it. So yeah, they're putting a price on a life. I think it's pretty crummy.
Yeah.
to do what they do. But people, that's your pharmaceutical companies for you. They're going to do that. So hopefully pharmaceutical companies, if they ever come up with a vaccine for this crap, they're not like $10,000 per. And if you got
and they'd say it just like that. What's the cost? $10,000 per. Like,
by the
what
way,
exactly constitutes a per?
Per shot? Per immunization?
Per whatever it is. That's why I didn't finish the sentence, because I don't know. Is it a pill? Is it going to be a shot? Is it going to be a liquid drink?
Well, I think once
I don't know what they're doing. Is it a vapor?
Probably be a shot.
Just rub it on my chest.
I think once they make the vaccine, they're gonna just mix it in with the regular flu shot that you always get every year. I think.
Well, that is dependent on how the virus reacts. So basically, I mean, you have your flu, right? Every single year. You guys, I mean, this is common knowledge, I'm sure, but my wife's a nurse, so she lets me know every year that, yep, this year they decided on these 4 strands of the influenza, and that's the ones they're going to vaccinate against, because those are the ones they're projecting to cause the most problems. But sometimes they're wrong and sometimes they're right. So some years, even if you get the flu vaccination, you're not going to be protected from whatever comes around because they guessed wrong.
That's what happened this year. I guarantee it.
Did
Messed
you got
up on my concoction because I was sick from freaking the beginning of January to just recently. I got better just as coronavirus hit the U.S. And I was just grateful because I've been coughing for 3 months. I haven't had like respiratory issues.
Virus because you're out there coughing.
That goes back to what Trav and I had this conversation earlier, but we're now afraid to cough in public because
True, it is
now
true.
you get looked at weird. And
No, I
Trav,
saw
apparently
posts.
he's allergic to the sun, is what he tells me.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so every time
I'm
he
not
steps
allergic to
outside,
the
he
sun.
sneezes.
I just sneeze every time I go outside and see it. It's like bright lights. I could be inside and see a bright light, and just it tickles my nose the right way that I just start sneezing. But you know, I saw this post that said, and I think I told you this, Danny, when we were having this conversation, but that said, like, I used to cough to cover up a fart, but now I fart to cover up a cough because last thing I want to do is get those dirty glares that are like, you coughed. It's like, yeah, but I don't have any respiratory issues and I don't have a fever, so I think I'm okay. Or, I mean, Alan, let's just be real. You smoke, you probably cough. So, you know, that happens. People like, I mean, I get indigestion from spicy foods and cough because of it. Allergies, I cough. Just basically about this time of year every year because something in the air makes me cough.
You just get a frog in your throat.
Yeah.
You just cough.
So, yeah. Sometimes I choke on my own spit. I don't know, but it just happens, and I don't want to be exiled because I just had some type of little, you know, so.
I mean, the thing is, like, everybody coughs at some point from time to time. I mean, I'd be surprised. Like, I wonder how many times on average a day you either cough or sneeze, you know, and you just don't even realize it until you're, like, hyper-focused on it, like in a situation such as now. But at the same time, I guess I could kind of see it. Like, if someone came to you and was like, look, there's like a 10% chance that anytime someone coughs on you, it's a death sentence, then I think you would be pretty concerned. It's like playing Russian roulette, but with coughs.
I can see you think you know they would definitely play that in Russia. They'd be like, let's get 10 people put in circle. One of us has COVID-19.
That's funny. I knew you were going there. The second you started laughing, I was like, Trav's going to come up with a whole story about Russia and COVID-19. I knew you were going to use COVID-19.
Roll dice. Each person has number. The dice that the number that the person rolls, that person will cough in their face.
So, I mean, we can use this time because we're starting to talk about it anyway, but I wanted to kind of see if you guys have seen any other funny things, because I think out of a moment of crisis, and I think Trav and I talked about this before too, but it seems like a lot of times people turn to comedy or humor to get themselves through the tough times, right? And so out of it, I think there's been a lot of creative memes and jokes and things out there that are trying to maybe present a light side to this whole thing, because as drastic and as scary as it can be, it almost like helps you cope with it a little bit better, in my opinion. And so, like Trav said, he heard that joke, which I thought was pretty funny, about the covering your fart with your cough with your fart instead of your fart with your cough. Wait, yeah, that's right. So But I mean, like, for example, I saw a meme that I thought was pretty funny, and it was like, because again, probably most of the country is going through this, probably most of the world is going through this. We're definitely going through this in Utah, but there's been like a toilet paper shortage, a water bottle shortage, especially a couple weeks ago, and a bunch of other, like, go to the grocery store, and for the first time in my lifetime here, I legit like don't know what's gonna be there and what's not gonna be there on any trip that I make to the grocery store. Like, it took us over a week to find flour. And we just got lucky that my mom went to a store that happened to have flour and like got it for us when she saw it, So, but I saw this meme, and it was basically a picture of the beer section in the grocery store. And in the middle of like all these cases of beer was like a package of toilet paper. And then the meme all it said was, a decision was made here.
Like said, you go to the store, you have enough money to buy either a 12-pack of toilet paper or a 12-pack of beer. What do you do? What do you do?
But I just thought it was pretty fun. Like, it was pretty funny because and then ironically, I actually saw the exact same thing when I went to the store like a week ago. I saw toilet paper sitting in the beer section, but I don't know if somebody was just setting it up. Maybe they were making their own meme. But I was like, oh my gosh, that reminds me of that meme.
Okay.
So
I don't know how true this is, but I did hear from somebody that the toilet paper thing was more of a Western United States thing and not an Eastern United States thing.
Do they not use toilet paper in the Eastern United States?
People didn't go nuts and buy it.
in Eastern United States, they don't give a damn. They're savages.
They'll just wipe with anything.
Yeah, well, I told you, like, when I lived in New Jersey and we ran out of toilet paper, and well, it's because we were effing poor, and like,
is that
we were
when
always choosing between.
You wore diapers? Is that when you wore diapers?
I didn't wear diapers.
I remember a different story than this, Trav.
That is a total lie, and we're not going to get into that crap right now. But no, I did not. But yes, it's around the same time that whatever story you're thinking about happened. But it just we had an allotment of money that we got paid like every 2 weeks. I mean, just like in the paycheck, but it was not a lot. So going and buying toilet paper when you're like, I could buy food or I could buy toilet paper. It was a very difficult decision. So we knew, can't talk right now. We usually just waited until the very end, till the absolute moment that we needed toilet paper. And it just happened in this instance that we must have timed it wrong, because I was in there and my, let's just say, roommate took the last right before I went in. And so I was like, well, what am I going to do now? Like, I have nothing. And so I just took the roll off and then like ripped the roll and tried to like roll it out. So it was more of like a flat piece of paper or a flat piece of cardboard instead of a roll. And that's what I used. It was not comfortable. It was horrible. And I guess if I have to go back there, then I will. But that's just the type of thing that I'm just like, if you have to do that in the East Coast, they don't care.
Surprisingly,
do whatever.
Surprisingly, those rolls, luckily, they do kind of come apart like a Pillsbury Doughboy package.
Yes, that's like, what I had to do.
Yeah.
Unravel it.
Lucky you.
Yeah.
But that reminds me of a story, a side tangent of, Alan might remember this as a kid, but when I was a young lad, a Boy Scout, we went on a Scout summer trip, and I had a buddy of mine that was like a year older than me. We used to hang out all the time, and I always thought he was like super cool.
Doug?
And so I just remember he like comes out of the porta potty one day, and he is like noticeably irritated. And I'm like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? He's like, it cost me $25 to go to the bathroom. I'm like, what? They charge you to go to the bathroom? He's like, no. They were out of toilet paper, and all I had in my wallet was a 20 and a 5. Those were my smallest bills, and I had to use them. So it cost him $25 to go to the bathroom.
I'm sorry. I would use my underwear, throw it in there, and go commando. It's cheaper to go buy new underwear than to just use $25 of cash.
But that's
I'm
ever since then. I always
person wasn't much of a thinker. Was he
I always try to carry ones with me everywhere I go, so it doesn't cost so much.
Or when you go to the strip clubs with your wife and watch ESPN.
Yeah. A word to the wise for all you gentlemen out there. If you go to the strip club with your wife, watch the girls. They'll get mad if you watch sports.
Not ESPN.
That's not an issue right
there's
now.
a couple of it's not an issue right now. You cannot go to strip clubs. I wonder what those ladies are doing right now.
Well, I was going to also say there's just no sports, so.
There is no sports. Sorry, I'm a little bit more concerned about the strippers. So a couple of things that I've seen that just made me laugh. I mean, the cool thing is that we are in a day and age where we do have, so much information at our fingertips, and, we have videos, memes posted everywhere. TikTok is this new, like, massive platform that everybody can use to just, and they're getting creative there because people are locked away in their rooms or in their homes, and there's nothing to do but just sit there and think, okay, what can I do to make fun of coronavirus? And so I've seen a couple of things, like where this one kid pulled up, and I don't know if this is true or not, but he was making fun of Vladimir Putin because he was saying that there's this article that came up and showed a lion that said, like, he just released like 200 lions out in Russia to keep people from walking outside because you could at any moment come face to face with a lion. So might as well just stay indoors. He's like, Putin ain't messing around, man. And then there was another thing, a video. I saw this in India. Now India is like one of the most populated places on earth.
Well, they had a lockdown of like 1.3 billion people or whatever they have there.
Yeah. So you still have people out there, but all of their law enforcement are around these big old bow staffs, and when they stop people and they just smack them.
That's cutting out big time. Can you?
Yeah.
Like they make.
I think he said that the guys in India are carrying around bow staffs, and when they see people outside, they smack them.
Yes, they smack them, and then they make them do calisthenics. So
for real,
they'll make them do push-ups, or they make them pose in weird ways, and they just humiliate them in public so that maybe they don't come out again. Like, no way, man. If I go outside, I'm gonna get beat with a stick, and they're gonna make fun of me.
Well, isn't that like Krampus? We've already talked about that.
Yeah, well, that's one way.
He beats you with a birch stick
and then drags you to hell. But
do they have birch sticks in India?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the foliage in the.
Well, have you guys seen anything else funny? Or?
Yeah, like a couple of weeks ago, there was a pretty funny meme going around, and it was like, it said America's reaction to the coronavirus, and then it showed like that clip from The Office.
Oh, yeah.
This will work if you guys can see it.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah, that's
not going to work. You should have shared it on the screen itself, Al.
Well, I don't have it on there.
But yeah, that was a funny one.
I've seen that. I did see, and this kind of sums up probably like our generation, the Gen Zers or whatever that's after us. But it's a picture of this grandpa talking to his grandson, and it's the conversation goes like, the grandpa's like, back in when I was younger, we had a pandemic, an outbreak of a virus that killed thousands of people, and we were all quarantined. And the kid goes, Grandpa, what did you do during the quarantine? And he just says, mostly sent memes to my friends. So that's the type of world that we live in right now. That's basically like, what else can you do? You can sit there and be depressed about it, or we can make light of it until it's not light anymore.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think right now we live in a time, obviously, that's different than any time in the past. In the fact that if we do have to basically be home and quarantine for the most part, we have so many more things. The fact that we can even be having this conversation right now and be talking to each other and seeing each other is very different than it would have been before. But we have, streaming services like Netflix and all these different things that have like unlimited amount of entertainment. We have books we can have, I mean, they had books before, but we can have them digitally too now if we want. So, I mean, there's just like a lot of different things that you can entertain yourself with for quite a while before. I mean, everyone's still going to feel pent up. I feel like I want to get outside a lot. And it's hard not to just be like, hey, I want to go to the park. I want to go do this or whatever, and just be able to do it. It's definitely different.
You can still go walk outside your house, and like you can still walk down the sidewalk just as long as you're not like in a giant group doing it.
For now.
Well, so that kind of brings us to one of your other questions is what have you guys been doing to pass the time? Is this something that is driving you crazy, or has it come easy?
So I actually have been going on like hikes up in the mountains on trails and stuff, because that are just like right around here within walking distance. Because every once in a while I have to get out of the house or else I'll go nuts. So last week I went on a hike and I got 2 miles up and then it started pouring rain. And so the whole 2 miles down, I just got soaked.
You should have checked the weather.
I didn't. It said I had 4 hours till it was going to rain.
Well, you give yourself that small of a window. You're trusting meteorologists about when it's going to rain. Are you kidding me?
Usually the best time to go would be when they say it's going to be raining, and then it'll be nothing but sunshine and rainbows.
That's true.
No, all they're doing, Alan, is just looking out the window and going, I see clouds about 4 hours away. Probably going to rain in 4 hours.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, doing what you can. I think, one, it's difficult enough to keep yourself entertained, but when you add the element of small children, I've realized now that that's even more difficult to keep them entertained, because especially this new generation of kids, they need to be constantly stimulated and have something to do or to focus on, or else they go crazy. They get quote unquote super bored all the time. So trying to figure out stuff for them. So I mean, I've had to get creative even just this weekend trying to keep them occupied. And so we'll go on daily drives, is what we call them. So we'll just like get in the car and we'll just drive around. And like yesterday we parked in a parking lot and then we blasted the music and we called it an in-car club. And so we had a dance club in the parking lot of the grocery store, and we're just like and just dancing around. So that was cool, but the kids liked it.
Yeah. Well, I've been
exactly
thinking
like you with the techno music. You're obsessed with techno music.
Well, you love techno.
I did introduce them to Promises by Skrillex today, and they thought it was bad A. So
was it another hour and a half long song?
No, it's only like 5 minutes. But it's like, promises.
When we were teenagers, Danny, when we were teenagers, we were on a drive in his like Jeep at the time or something like that. And he turns on this techno song. Okay, you have to guess how long this song is. So I'm like, he wouldn't be saying that unless it's a pretty long song. So I'm gonna say maybe 6 minutes. 6 minutes go by. He's like, would you like to revise your guess? I'm like, 10 minutes. And then he just kept doing that. I'm like, 20 minutes, a half hour, 45 minutes. And we get up to an hour and a half and it's still going. Finally ends. I'm like, what the hell was that song? He makes an hour and a half techno song and I just had to listen to it all.
See, I have my
the thing
ways
that's
of
funny
getting
about
to
that is
listen
that he couldn't just answer, like you couldn't just guess and have an answer. Like he had to make you listen to the whole song.
Yeah.
Like even if you would have been like an hour and a half, he would have been like, well, let's listen to see if you're right.
Well, there's nothing that will stick in your head quite like actually experiencing it. See, Alan
Danny
has the
loves to
story
make
to
you
this
guess
day.
stuff. Like, I mean, he would just like this isn't like an actual experience. Nothing's coming to my head at the moment, but I know you made me guess things all the time. Like, guess what's in my hand? What's in my pocket? It's what? It's just he gets this thrill about
Like,
just making you guess.
because it's like, yeah, he loves to be able to control someone. He's like, yes, they're under my control. They have to guess what I say.
They have no clue. Only I know the answer to the question.
Well,
Only I know the path to the treasure.
I'm just saying, it pays off and you guys get some good memories out of it. So you're welcome.
So do you guys know?
Yeah, and I'm sure that's exactly why you did it. I was just saying, I'm sure that's exactly why he did it too. Because he's like, you know what? I know we're going to sit in this car for an hour and a half, but this will be a good memory one day.
It will be, and it was for Alan. He will always cherish that memory and be able to tell that story for years to come.
Falls under bad memory in my mind.
But yeah, I mean, I think we're probably doing a lot of the things that most people are doing. I haven't really gotten into any binges on Netflix. I know a lot of people are doing that, but I've been reading a lot.
Some tiger.
Yeah, the
I have
Tiger
not watched that
King.
yet. Have you watched that, Trav?
Well, I wouldn't have expected. Like, I'm amazed that you haven't. Like, I mean, I know you're still going to work. You and I, I mean, I'm going every other day, but you're pretty much still going every day, right?
Yeah,
Danny.
yeah. Still going every day.
Pretty essential.
Banking.
Yeah, I guess a bank is pretty essential. But the thing is, though, like a lot of banks, they've just shut down. I mean, I know you're not a teller. Like you've got other things that you're worrying about. But I mean, no other banks have just basically shut down the majority of their operations. You can only go through drive-throughs and stuff like that. But anyway, I'm just surprised that with the extra time that you're spending at home, not having to go out and do anything else, that you just barely watched The Quiet Place.
See, I'm making my way through. I'm like 3 years behind on my movies, but the cool thing, I know this is kind of a weird thing, but this is kind of like an OCD thing, right? For people who don't know me, sometimes I suffer from weird OCD instances in certain things and not others. But so to me, in a way, the fact that they stopped putting movies in movie theaters for a little while because of this whole thing made me pretty excited, because I feel like it's giving me an opportunity to catch up a little bit before the new onslaught of new movies come out. And so I'm like, oh man.
It'll matter. You just won't go see those, and then you'll be behind again. So unless you
maybe
use your
briefly,
time
I
wisely,
feel like I'm caught up.
Yeah. I think you're going to have a long ways to catch up because, like we've talked about in various episodes, you still pretty much only reference Independence Day. So you've got a long ways to catch up.
Yeah. How ironic is it that Independence Day is a movie about the potential end of the world, and here we are at the potential end of the world. So, coincidence? I think not.
Pretty
And
sure
besides,
this is the potential end of the world, though.
the government, right? What? Do you think they spend $20,000 on a hammer, $30,000 on a toilet seat? No. They put $2 trillion in a stimulus package.
What? What the hell are you talking about?
Is that an Independence Day reference?
Yeah, because he's like, you don't think they spend $20,000 on a hammer, $30,000 on a toilet seat, do you? When they're like, where did all this money for this base come from? When they go down underground to see like where they're hiding all the alien tech. Oh, come on. It's a very famous movie, you guys.
I remember a lot of them. Like, that was my favorite movie. I don't remember that part, but
that's the one line that you want to quote. Stimulus package.
Wait, what'd you say, Trev? You cut out.
So that's the one line you want to quote is about a stimulus package.
Well, they didn't say the stimulus package part. I put that in.
he changed the quote. Okay. He started how they
See, you add it, and then you can't even tell that it's not going along with the actual line.
Because they say the part about the hammer and the toilet seat. I added the part about the stimulus package.
Good ad-lib.
All right, let's move on from this.
Do you guys know the latest numbers?
Oh,
What?
No, I don't actually.
On coronavirus? Should we go?
Yeah, I think we should bring this up. So, on a little bit more serious note, Alan's going to bring up some of the latest numbers. And for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, thank you. And if you're still with us, thank you very much. We'll answer the question. Alan's name is really not Tracy Ellis. It's Alan. So just in case you're curious.
Oh, yeah. I'm just using my
Alan's
sister's
name is not Tracy. It's Alan.
Yeah, we're using my sister's Zoom account to record this.
So for anyone who doesn't use it, this is the site that I've found to be the most up-to-date typically when it comes to numbers of cases. It's the Johns Hopkins University, but I'm sure, pretty much everyone I know at this point has kind of used this website at this point. But as of a couple hours ago, when I pulled these screenshots, we had 720,017 confirmed cases, 33,925 deaths in 177 countries/regions. I did a quick.
This is Sunday, November 29th in the United.
Yeah, except for it's not November, it's March.
Not November, March. March.
So it's March 29th, 2020. Alan has missed a lot of time. He's just like November 29th. But if you take it, obviously, like all I did was just take the number of deaths divided by the total number of confirmed cases. And right now we have, if you use that formula, it's a 4.7% death rate, which is, to put that in context, the typical flu, the influenza, has a 0.1% death rate. So we're looking at like 47 times more deadly than the regular flu is. So
wait, the flu is what?
0.1% death rate. So meaning like 1 out of 1,000 people will die from the flu.
Mm-hmm.
But right now we're looking at like 47 out of 1,000 people die from COVID-19 or coronavirus. The numbers are kind of skewed partially because we haven't done enough testing yet. So there's probably a lot of people that are like just not getting tested who
probably
never realize they have it. So it's probably a lower rate more than likely. but it's still projected to be, at least in the 1% to 2% range, which is still 20 times more deadly than the regular flu is. If you look at the next slide, so people who are listening to this audio, it's not as exciting for you. If you watch it on YouTube, you can see the actual graphic images, but basically it's just showing the growth rate of those infected in the world, and you can see that we are still moving up exponentially. So we're getting more and more cases. We're not in the clear here yet. So the interesting thing is going to be to look back on this several years from now and be like, okay, I remember at that point we were still climbing and we were at 700 and something thousand cases, and now it would be interesting to see where we quote unquote peak in the future, and then knowing that information in the future will be interesting. And then we were talking about vaccines, Trav.
Mm-hmm.
So have you heard anything on vaccines? Like, I know they've had news out there, like they're in early clinical trials on some of them.
Yeah, I've heard that. I mean, the only other thing that I've heard, and you've seen it too, because I know you commented on it, was just that that article that my brother posted, and he wasn't like sharing it to say, hey, look what they're coming out with a medicine that can help us. It was just more of a wonderment where they're talking about some type of medication that a lot of I guess apparently some doctors and are prescribing themselves in hopes that it will kind of help them with the virus or whatever. But
yeah,
apart from those two things,
that's the hydroxychloroquine that you're referencing, right?
Yeah. So I don't really heard anything else. 24, clock thing that they're working on. That's like
A lot.
that point with and I think we got a ways to go before we get to 70% of the population.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going 70% of the world population, then what is that? We're roughly 8 billion, so you'd be looking at like over 5 billion people that would have to get infected for you to get to that natural group or herd immunity kind of situation.
Yeah.
But yeah, like,
so
to answer your question,
I was to say, sorry, there must be a lag. I guess when I start to talk, you kind of like pause for a second. No, all I was going to say is that I'd rather them come out with something so we don't have to wait that long to get. But then there's a lot of testing involved with the vaccines and things, and then you got to get it FDA approved or whatever approved before it can be mass produced and used. And so we're still a little ways from that as well, even if they did have something.
Yeah. No, I mean, their best guess is basically 12 to 18 months at the quickest. And they've already gone to human trials faster than exponentially faster than they've ever gone before. So, I mean, this is the part. I know we've had a lot of fun joking around about a lot of this stuff. We're not taking this lightly by any stretch of the imagination. We all have friends and family that we care about. We don't want this to get out of hand or anything like that. But obviously we're not here just to be a downer either. That's, if you want that, just watch the
Not
video.
our style.
But from what I've learned, because I mean, I didn't know a whole lot about this kind of stuff until it all started coming out, right? And then I'm somebody who's curious, and if there's something especially that's affecting my personal life, I want to know more about it and look into it. So Alan, if you could bring up that last slide, I can kind of go through. This is just for anybody who maybe hasn't seen this stuff, doesn't understand it very well. This is hopefully like a super easy way for you to just understand the very, very basics of what happens. So Trav and I talked a little while ago, and we talked about like, well, why is it called the coronavirus? And the coronavirus is called the coronavirus because why, Trav? What does corona mean in Spanish?
Corona means crown.
Yeah, so apparently because it has these spiky looking things on it, that's why they end up calling it coronavirus, because it looks like a crown. It's named COVID-19 from my understanding because it's the 19th. Was it the 19th strain, or was it because it was 2019?
2019 is when it first was started.
Okay. So that one I need clarification on.
Coronavirus 19 or coronavirus disease. So that's where you get the D is disease. And then 19 for 2019.
Yeah, so that's what makes sense why people were talking about like could be COVID-22 or COVID-24 that like causes like even more havoc or something like that. And then this is maybe super stupid to a lot of people, but I had the hardest time. I kept hearing people call it novel coronavirus or novel COVID-19, and I'm like, why?
Doesn't novel just mean new?
Yeah, I had no idea that that's what it meant. It's like, I'm like, this is a book? Like, I don't understand, like, why they're calling it a novel.
We in a book? This is a stupid book.
So, yeah, like, but finally, like, I did hear something that's like, novel means new, and it's just like a new strain of coronavirus. So it's a type of virus that's new.
Well, because there have been other coronaviruses. In fact, if you look on like your Lysol or your disinfectant wipes or whatever, it says that it does protect against coronavirus. You're like, how? How is this something that's already released? And it's because we've had coronaviruses before. Swine flu was a coronavirus. They just didn't call it that. Call it something else.
So like the most famous cases of past coronavirus are SARS, MERS, and was it H1N1? Is that the swine flu?
Yeah.
Or is that okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this is not like a new subtype of virus, I guess, or not a new type of virus. It's just like a new strain of an already existing virus that continues to evolve. And typically they always come from animals. That's kind of somewhere. I mean, the whole story behind this, I think, is that it started in a bat, somehow got transferred to some mammal that apparently is cute. I forget, it's like an armored mammal or something, and then that's ultimately what got it close enough to humans that it infected humans. But the whole point is, because I didn't know this before, so I wanted to know, like, well, how does it like actually work? Like, why is this virus? What does it do to you to like make you sick, or whatever it's called? So I found this little image, this little dude ad, that just shows you pretty straightforward like what it does. But basically, a virus it cannot survive on its own. It has to have a host or a cell in order to survive and to reproduce. So what it does, once it enters your system, it goes and finds your cells. And in this case, each virus, it's kind of like, you guys ever watch, I know Alan does, but Trav, like, if you ever watched like a movie that takes place in space or something like that, and they have to dock with like a spaceship has to dock with another ship, or has to dock with like a space station or something like that.
Yes.
And in that case, what does it use?
He wipes his nose. He's got corona. No. As we speak, he's contracting corona.
Well, I don't want to make you guys sick through these digital channels, you know. But yeah, like it has like a docking thing, right? They always have like that thing where it's like that pressurized, I don't know what you call it, but it connects somehow. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes, we know. We understand.
And so
when the ship
there
docks,
needs to
makes
be
that sound. That's what corona is.
So there needs to be some kind of connector that between the virus and the cell, and in this case it happens to be what's called the ACE2 receptor. I don't know why I put it in quotes, but it's the ACE2 receptor, which happens to be primarily in your lungs, which is why it's a respiratory disease. But it also, the second most prevalent place that in the body that ACE2 receptors are is in your intestines. So there's actually people who are getting diarrhea as a side effect, or not a side effect, but as a what is it called when you have symptom of coronavirus. On a side note, I also learned that loss of taste and loss of smell happens in some people that have constricted. What is it? Contracted coronavirus. But yeah,
Rudy
anyway,
Gobert
so
lost his smell.
What?
Rudy Gobert said he lost his sense of smell.
Yeah. And so he was one of them that happened to. But basically, once the coronavirus finds the ACE2 receptor on cells, so typically in the lungs, that's where it makes its connection. You can see that in number 1 if you're watching it on YouTube. The coronavirus then enters the cell, as you can see in number 2, picture number 2. And then once it's inside the cell, it takes over the cell and then starts using the cell to start reproducing and creating other versions and copies of it. And then those versions then removed from the cell, and they go start doing that to other cells in the body. And so ultimately that's how it just kind of explodes in someone's body. And then if your body's immune system can't handle it and produce antibodies fast enough, that's when you get extremely sick and potentially die. And so that's your body's response system to try and stop the coronavirus. So bringing up the whole story, and you can get rid of that if you want, Al, but bringing up the whole story about the whole vaccine is that there is one vaccine that they've already gotten to trials, but this is an RNA-based vaccine, which means that it's basically a programmed vaccine that they can inject your body with RNA, which is similar to DNA, and it can go in, and it's a set of instructions that it'll go penetrate some cells, and it'll tell them to create COVID-19 lookalike viruses. And so when it does that, your body will learn how to defend itself against that type of virus, even though that particular virus is like a non-lethal. It's not like an actual, it's just like a replica, like a dormant, like dummy version of the virus. So in hopes that if you actually contract the actual coronavirus, then your body will already know how to stop it. Yeah.
So basically, you're saying the vaccine is not necessarily it doesn't fight the actual virus, more or less it teaches your body how to?
Correct, yeah. So like a normal vaccine is them putting usually like dead versions of a virus into your body. So you're injected with like actual virus, and then your body learns, oh, this is like an intruder, so they learn how to attack it and kill it. So when you actually if you ever actually are exposed to the real virus that's alive, your body will know how to fight it already. So, but this one's a little different in the fact that it's literally like more like instructions that tell your body to create dummy viruses that aren't really harmful to you, but they just look like the actual virus. And so your body learns how to kill it. And then once you get once you're exposed to actual virus, your body should already know how to kill that virus and then take care of it before it spreads too far. So it's just kind of, it's complicated and interesting and fascinating, but it's stuff that I never took the time to really learn or dig into personally, because I just didn't really think twice about it. I just was like, yeah, I go get my shot once a year for flu, and that's all I do.
Never works. I always get the flu. So every single year, they must be doing the wrong thing.
I feel like Trav goes to like a special doctor who's just like putting sugar water into his body. He's like, there you go, Trav. There's your flu shot.
He's like, before I squirt it into your veins, I'd like to taste it. Sweet.
We have no idea what Travis said. I think he said before we squirt it into your veins, you can taste it. It's sweet.
Yeah. That's basically what I said.
But yeah, so that's in a nutshell that part of it. But I think that's enough of like the technical science behind it. If you want more of that, there's tons of it out there. There's really good resources. We're not here to be a resource on, and again, none of us are doctors. None of us are here to give you actual advice on what to do. We're just giving you what we've learned, our opinions, our thoughts. So I don't want anyone to like take what we're saying and as gold or whatever the saying would be. And
as like scripture, you mean?
Is that what it is?
I don't know exactly, like as gospel or
Oh, yeah, gospel.
As gospel.
That's the word.
As
the word.
gold.
I don't want you to take this as gold.
The English language is so difficult, Trav.
you suck at English.
Well, we all know it's my second language, so
It is not. It is a second language. It's not your second language. There's a difference.
But anyway, so yeah, like I guess to wrap, I mean, do you guys have anything specific you wanted to cover?
We covered
I was just
everything.
thinking to wrap it up before we kind of go into maybe one last topic, because here in Salt Lake City, COVID-19 is not the only thing that we've been dealing with in the last couple of weeks. If you live here, you obviously are going to know what we're talking about. If you don't, you may not know what we're talking about. But I just kind of wanted to end this, like, because this is such a rare occurrence or event. It's never happened in my lifetime, which by default means it's never happened in your guys' lifetimes that are on here. There are people older than me that are probably out there, but I'm saying of the three of us.
Probably.
Not
There
if the
might be, as far as
COVID-19
I know, there
has
might be
anything
some
to do about it.
that's 37.
But anyway, like, just my experience of when it really sank in, and I'm just curious where you guys were, the situation you guys were in when it kind of sank in of what was going on. Because I mean, if you guys are like me, I heard the news about, yeah, like there's this new virus that's come out in China and is affecting the people over there. But to me, it just felt much like SARS or like one of those other things where I'm like, I remember seeing it on the news, but really it didn't affect my day-to-day life, right? So it wasn't until, I mean, I go through that, I see all those people on the cruise ship that are infected with it, but again, I'm like, yeah, way over there, like in the South China Sea or wherever they were, like between Japan and China, right? Like, again, didn't really affect my day-to-day life, but it wasn't until the NBA canceled their season. That was the moment that it really sunk in for me that I'm like, shit's hit the fan.
That was the same exact moment for me. So as
Um,
soon as the NBA canceled their season, and then the next day it was like MLB is canceling, MLS is canceling, NFL might not have to draft or whatever it was. That's when it sunk in for me. I was like, oh, this is a big deal.
Yeah, because ultimately, like, if these huge multi-billion-dollar organizations are willing to forego money, like the NCAA, they're not even going to come back and do March Madness. They're just canceling March Madness altogether, which is going to cost billions of dollars in the end. They've never, since 1939 is when they started the men's NCAA tournament, and they have never missed a year. This will be the first year since then that there's going to be no champion.
yeah.
And so I think that, I know for a lot of people, sports maybe aren't that big of a deal, but for me, it's a big deal. And that's why probably it was such a wake-up call. It took them taking away one of my primary sources of entertainment to sink in that, like, this is serious. And then that's when the stores started getting run on and everything.
So, I mean, because obviously the NCAA tournament was affected and they made decisions before like the NBA. So I didn't understand the gravity of the situation, but it was one of the first things that obviously I noticed, that it's now a state side, a problem instead of just something that we're hearing about in China or various other countries, that, they first said, okay, we're still going to have the tournament, but we're just not going to let anybody in. It's just going to be televised. And then, of course, all these funny things came out of them playing in the tournament, but it's super quiet, and all you just hear is like, just of their
the sneakers,
just of their shoes just squeak ground. And but then they just came out and was like, you know what, F it. Like, we're not even gonna guys be that close to each other. And then I think at that point is kind of where I was like, oh crap, yeah, like this is a lot bigger than what I'd thought. It's tough just because, still, even now, like in Utah, we're fairly, in comparison to like the East Coast, West Coast, we're kind of sandwiched on the west side, but we haven't been affected as much as some of those other places. And so it's still kind of surreal. Like we're going through, and it's almost like we're preparing for the inevitable. And so it just kind of gives you this weird feeling, that's all right. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that we don't get it, and hopefully, just with kind of the way that we're reacting to it, we're really more preparing instead of reacting. I think, unfortunately, for some of those other states, they were just in a reactionary phase. Like, it already happened, so now we have to do something about it. Whereas we're kind of more like, we've seen that it's being other places, so let's do what we can to maybe slow the flow, if we can say it that way. So I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird feeling. I don't like it. I want things to go back to normal. In fact, I did. It was funny because I was watching a movie earlier today, with my wife and daughter, and there was a scene where they were eating at a restaurant, and I I leaned over to my daughter and I said, a long time ago, people used to get together in establishments like that, and they would eat together in close proximity. And she just looks at me, she's like, what are you talking about? Like, we do that all the time. And I'm like, yeah, but not anymore. So we can eat still, but we have to go drive through. Can't pay with cash, you have to pay with card, and they make you put it in the machine, or they're wearing gloves and everything. And it's like, I'm very appreciative that everybody's going to the lengths that they are of that, but it just feels freaking weird. That's the bottom line, and it sucks.
Yeah. I think the grocery stores, like we mentioned earlier, just make things that much weirder. But yeah, a bunch of stuff just is strange. Stuff that you've just never experienced before in our lifetimes, and probably most people who are alive. The one pandemic that you can go back to, the last one that seems like it affected the whole world like this, was 1918, the Spanish flu. And just thinking, like, when you learn about stuff like that in history, to a certain extent, you're just like, yeah, man, that can't happen now. Like, yeah, that happened back in the day. Or like when you learn about the Black Plague or something, you're like, yeah, well, they just didn't understand, like, medicine or viruses or anything like that to the extent that we do now. But this just goes to show you that we're still susceptible, and we obviously weren't prepared to deal with it in the way that maybe we would have hoped that we were. And the strange thing is even that, because even though we're all part of this world, like, it just, when it happens on the other side of the world, like we said before, like when it happens in China, or it happens in India, or it just happens in some other country in the world, it doesn't hit home like obviously it does when it's your country that's affected. And surprisingly, I don't know if any of you guys would have thought, even 2 weeks ago, maybe even a week ago that the United States would be the epicenter by now. Like at this point, we're the epicenter of the disease. You know, like we have more cases by far
2 weeks ago
than any other country in the world. And we're still trending up really, really fast. So, I mean, it's going to get worse. You know, China's already basically gotten control of this. And we have way more cases than they do at this point, and we are nowhere close to getting in control of it.
So the total cases in the United States right now, as of today, were 137,047, and total deaths were 2,400 in the United States.
Yeah, but China, I think, has like 82,000 cases. They had a higher death rate at this point, but yeah, we have way more cases than they have.
Now, I have one quick question for you with that. Do you think that one of the reasons why we have, sorry, my internet just said my connection is unstable. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's a little choppy, but we can kind of hear you.
Okay. So do you think that one of the reasons why we have such higher numbers than some of the other countries is because we have been testing more? Because I imagine that there's more people out there that could have had it in China, in Italy, wherever, and that just didn't get tested. But we're, as soon as like one per like, oh, let's stick down our noses and let's check it out. Does that make sense?
To answer your question, Italy struggled much like we did here early on, and they don't have quite the system. I mean, of all the countries in the world, the US was and is the most prepared for this type of thing, other than the fact that we hadn't gone through like SARS and some of those other things. So there are some things that those countries, such as China, and I know I keep using China as an example, but they've shown a good example. But a lot of those countries over there, they've dealt with things like this before. So they built protocols and put things into place. They knew how to take fairly quick action, like to what extreme they needed to take action to start mitigating the virus. I mean, literally, the problem that we have here in the US is actually like, if you're hearing that we have more testing here, actually that's like totally the opposite of what happened. Like we were totally not prepared for testing. We were way behind on testing, and that's one of the reasons that we've had such a big problem. Because if you can test and trace, is what they call it, then that's when you can start really curbing things, because you're testing. You're finding all the cases. You're isolating and quarantining the people who are testing positive. Like in China, they're going out, and as soon as they find this person's been tested positive, they're in quarantine. Then they go out and they're like, hey, you got to name every single person that you've been in contact with over the last few days. They tell them, they go find those people, put them in quarantine. They literally are turning all their hotels into quarantine units, and they're just putting each person one off into each hotel room. And then literally they're just stuck in that hotel room for 14 days. But they went to that extreme to be able to curb and slow down the virus to the point where like they're getting very, very close to getting it under control. But that doesn't mean that it can't happen again there, especially if someone from outside the country comes in and starts a whole new epidemic. But for now, they've basically got it under control. But the US, we were so slow we didn't have the tests. They put out a first batch of tests that didn't work. They were
like the first million were faulty.
Yeah, like they didn't come back with conclusive results, and that doesn't help you with anything. So finally now the US has come to a point where they're starting to get the testing ramped up to a point where they can start to actually be somewhat effective with it. But that has literally been within like the last 3 or 4 days. To put the numbers into perspective, South Korea was testing 15 to 20,000 people a day for their population size. That's what they had to do in order to successfully test and trace and quarantine people and curb the entire epidemic. Whereas in the United States, by our population numbers, we need to be testing about 130,000 people a day. And we just hit that number, like I said, about 3 days ago. We've been hitting about 130,000 tests a day. And we need to be able to do that for like 2 or 3 weeks to really like start getting effective at testing and tracing, and then we can start to curb it. So that's why I say at this point, we're going to see much, much bigger numbers, in my opinion, before the curve hopefully starts declining instead of increasing like it is.
Got it.
That's the fear of like overrunning our hospitals, you know, and not having enough ventilators or equipment or whatever to help people live. And from a personal note, my wife's a nurse and she works in the ICU of a hospital, and I worry about her in the respect that if you're exposed to the virus repeatedly over and over, you get a bigger dose of the virus, which obviously like makes logical sense. And in that way, it spreads in your body faster and more effectively and more violently. And so that's where I think some of these younger people, like you've heard a lot of like doctors and medical staff are dying from the virus, is because they're exposed to it in over and over again in big doses. And so even though they're young and healthy, their body succumbs to the virus eventually because they got too much of it, which another thing I didn't know before all this. I thought like once you have a cold, you have a cold. Like you don't get more of a cold, right?
More cold.
Yeah. But
more cold.
Yeah. So should we jump over to what else has been happening?
Yeah, I mean, let's just briefly touch on it. There's really not a lot that we can talk about. It just sucks. It's just an added thing that we have to deal with here in this state. But yeah, so won't you go ahead and explain to the people, if they don't already know, what we've had to deal with?
So obviously this whole scare happens. I think it was the 11th of March, if I remember right, that is when the NBA, like Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell tested positive. The NBA shuts down their season, and that's when that whole thing started to snowball. That's when we all said that we realized that this was going to be serious and start to affect our personal lives. And then it was the following Tuesday, so 6 days later, so it was the 17th, I think, was it, on St. Patrick's Day?
It was on a Wednesday.
What? Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it?
It was a Wednesday.
Was it? So the day after St. Patrick's Day. So maybe it was the 18th.
Yeah.
Then. That we here in Utah have always feared what they call the big earthquake. They always taught us that we were potentially going to have this giant earthquake because we sit on a giant fault line here in Salt Lake Valley, but we really never experienced earthquakes. I mean, I don't ever remember experiencing an earthquake that I really felt living here ever in 37 years that I've been here. But we got a 5.7 earthquake that hit the city. I mean, I guess it was like west of Salt Lake City by a few miles, but yeah, Magna for anybody who knows where that is. But needless to say, shook everybody up a little bit here. I think, honestly, where I live, I felt it, but I don't think I realized how bad it was for the people that were really close to the epicenter compared to what it was here. Because I didn't even have things really fall off my shelves or anything like that.
Me neither.
But looking at pictures of some of those houses in Magna, their entire, like, their kitchens were like upended and just all their dishes out and shattered everywhere, their food out of the fridge falling, just really tore up their homes and stuff like that. So, but it's just one more thing. Like, everyone is already on high alert, and then you add another element of fear, and then see what happens when you go to the grocery store or talk to people. Like, everybody that day was noticeably like uneasy.
No, that was a really bad day, because it's like, coronavirus, everybody get inside. Earthquake, everybody get outside. What do we have to do?
Yeah, it's true.
That's just the situation.
The weirdest part of it to me was because it woke me up, and I just remember the sound it made was this low rumbling sound. It sounded like a huge truck was going by outside. But yeah, I never realized the earthquake, like the sound that earthquakes make before. It's a pretty weird sound that like after that we heard another truck going by and we were all like, "What? Earthquake, earthquake." Oh, that was actually a truck.
Yeah. No, it's a strange feeling. I'm sure there's a lot of people like in California or in Tokyo, wherever else they have earthquakes fairly often, like minor earthquakes especially, or just like it's just Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever it was. But for us, we were like, oh my gosh, this is the whole world's ending. I mean, there were so many apocalyptic jokes that day that I was sick of them by the end of the day, personally. Although I did like the one that Trav told me, that we did not experience earthquake. That was just Kobe dunking on Jesus or something like that.
No, I didn't say that. That must have been another one that you saw, because I didn't say that.
No, you did.
It was
You
something
told me
to the
that.
effect of like everything was okay until Kobe died, and then everything else just went to shit. So
Oh. Maybe I did see it somewhere else.
I didn't say anything about Kobe dunking on Jesus.
but yeah, so I mean, it's just been a strange time here in Salt Lake City, especially, but all over the world. And honestly, in a way, I have to be thankful that, I mean, I'd rather put up with that earthquake that happened and a little bit of chaos that came with that than honestly what's going on in New York, and the upper northeast, because I would honestly be freaked out a lot more, I think, if I lived up there than I am here living in Utah, fairly spread apart, you know.
Yeah. No, and that was the other thing I was gonna say. Just here in Utah, I mean, we luckily, I mean, we're getting more and more people into the state just because we're one of those states that we've got I don't know, a lower cost of living, but all these other companies are starting to move in, and it's just really kind of one of those places that is being coveted right now. But we're still, in comparison, like we don't have that many people. It's a larger state, so we're more spread out. I mean, most of our state there's hardly anybody in it. Between St. George, which is the majority of the state, is almost nothing. So
yeah, I mean, the vast majority of the population is all right here in the Salt Lake Valley, in essence. Like,
yeah. So we're pretty lucky, and you know, hopefully that kind of, I mean, at least for us, that benefits us. You know, maybe that'll help us moving forward. But hopefully we're doing the right things, and whether it's freaking coronavirus or earthquakes, hopefully we can get through all this crap, and that there's a swift end to it. But because I miss doing normal things, and it hasn't even been that long. So
yeah, it's literally been like 2 weeks.
I know.
Since they basically.
I miss going to like Ross and looking for shoes. It's so stupid that the things that you're like, oh man, like because that's how I would pass my time, is I'd go look for shoes at Ross when I was bored or on lunch, and now I can't do all that. So now I got to come up with other crap. So
yeah. Well, the ironic thing for me is like, I never wanted to go see so much as I do now.
You're cutting out. I can't understand
every day. I'm like, yeah, I should go. No, I can't go watch. I think I got now. I can't. I'll just
see. This is what is to take up playing video games.
That's true. So, maybe that would help.
I mean, I'm just saying, I can keep myself busy doing that for a long time. So, but anyway, is there anything else you guys want to cover today? Or, I mean, we've been talking for quite a while, so probably.
Yeah, I
end at
think
some point.
that we covered a good chunk. There's always going to be more stuff that we can cover with this kind of a topic. But again, we're not here to like tell you the news or regurgitate what's going on that you could just see on CNN or whatever news station you watch. We're more, I think, ultimately, like we said in the beginning, as a joke, but it was kind of like, well, once Q code stopped, that's when the whole world went to crap. But I think, honestly, for me, something like this last hour and a half or whatever it's been has just been helpful as far as, even though we've been talking about it, it's been keeping my mind off things. Hopefully, if you are somebody who likes to listen to this, like, you'll enjoy it. And I think the plan moving forward is to try and start putting out content here and there a little bit more often, resume the Dream-isodes, maybe even bring in Trav Mydell, if you guys remember him from some of the past episodes. But hopefully we can help be a distraction during this time and forward even after all this is over. And hopefully it's not like we lose like a giant portion of the population. It's just, it was a crappy couple months and then we can move back to life as normal. But you guys have anything to add to that?
Nope.
No. Okay.
All right.
So,
but since Trav's got the
like we said,
what's that?
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, since Trav's got like the rough connection, we might have to work on that connection moving forwand
Definitely
I'll do his job today as far as he'd usually close us out. And I don't even remember if I can remember this, but I know we got Facebook at Q Code Podcast. We got Instagram at Q Code Podcast. I'm pretty sure we have Twitter, although we don't really use it that much. But you can visit our website at qcodepodcast.com. You can listen to us on any of your podcast players. And now, maybe here's like a little bit of thing. My mom always said, I always tell people this, that the definition of crisis in Japanese is opportunity. And maybe out of this crisis, we found an opportunity to put something on YouTube and video that we've been promising for a long time and never did. So hopefully you guys enjoy it.
It's choppy as fun.
Yeah. Let us know how smooth Alan and I were and how choppy Trav was, or if it was all of us that were choppy. I don't know. But we'll get that fixed. But until next time, this is Danny, Travis, and Alan, and the Q Code Podcast. Peace out.